Hello, my name's Peggy Maddox, and I'm from Kids on the Land. And we're so sorry, fifth graders, that we're not going to get to meet you again this year because of the pandemic. But we thought we've got to figure out a way to connect with you, and we decided we'd do some video presentations. Now, as you were not in school at this time last year, so we couldn't meet with you, we did put some outdoor activities up on our website. Maybe you got to enjoy those. But let's think back to when you were third graders, and we did get to meet you out on the Richards Ranch. We told you that Kids on the Land has a mission, a job. We want you to learn about the place where you live. Why do we think that's important? If you connect to the land, especially the land in your environment where you are, then you'll want to take care of it. And to take care of a place and be willing to sustain it, we have to know about it. So let's think back what you might have learned as third graders. We talked about the fact that your county was named for the Jack brothers, Patrick and William, who were soldiers in the war for Texas independence. They were heroes. We also talked about you're living in a certain ecoregion of Texas. Let's review that. Think the word ecoregion. Eco is from the Greek language. It means home. And region is an area of land or water that is similar. May have the same climate or same plants, the same animals, even same soils. So what ecoregion do you live in? There are 11 ecoregions in Texas. And your ecoregion is right along in this area right here. What do you think makes your ecoregion different from the other 10? Think about landscape in your area. You don't live near the ocean, do you? You don't live near a desert. No, you live in the Western Cross Timbers ecoregion. Now, the Western Cross Timbers ecoregion is an area where you have open plains and areas of trees in a kind of a straight line. Now, when the Spanish explorers came and into this region, they saw that long stretch of trees so thick, and they said the wood was so hard that they called it the iron cast forest. Maybe your grandmother has an iron cast skillet. You know how hard they are. So your region, your ecoregion, say this: I live in the Western Cross Timbers ecoregion. Now let's see if we can learn some more about the place where you live. So for example, let's see, let me ask you, does anybody know about the wind? Does anybody know what wind is? You know, the wind can do things for us. It can pump water. It can make electricity. The wind can spread seeds, like this dandelion seed, that a plant that the seeds have been caught in a burst of wind and are going to be scattered. Those are good things the wind does for us. The wind can do really good things for us, and that's what we're going to talk about next. But tell me, what is the wind? The wind is air in motion. And we're going to talk about how the wind can work for us. Now, the video I'm going to show you is about wind turbines. And wind turbines produce electricity. The video will be about wind turbines on the rolling plains in Nolan County. That's where I live. But the information you are going to get about the wind turbines will be the very same as the wind turbines here that you see on the Richards Ranch in Jack County. And we are very, very sorry that we can't be with you at the Richards Ranch Wind Turbine Farm. But we hope you enjoy this video, and when you finish the video, you're going to have some activities that we've left with your teacher that she might want you to do. But in the meantime, please be safe, and we hope to meet you again. Thanks. Now we're standing at a wind turbine. So let's see how this new technology works for us here on the rolling plains. And the wind is very important, and we have a lot of it today. So I'm going to turn it over to Mom. She has some folks she wants you to meet.
Hi there, kids on the land. We're sorry that you're not out here today, but we've got some experts about wind on the land. Wind on the land. There you go. For you kids on the land, wind energy. Rod Wetzel is a professor at the University of Texas and at Texas Tech for the law school. He's been into wind energy so long that we almost think he is the premier person people go to find out about wind energy. And we have his assistant, Dana, and Kenny, who's out here making the wind turbines work. Miss you all, but glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to West Texas. It's a very windy day today, and that is really good for wind energy. As you can see, or maybe you might not be able to see, but you can certainly hear the wind blowing. All the wind turbines are turning today. We've got a really good show for you here today to introduce you to a lot of the facts about a new industry that's only been in the world commercially for about 20 years. Whereas oil and gas, where the gas that powers a lot of your cars come from, has been around for 120 years. So in that respect, it's a brand new industry which is going to bring a lot of electric power to the world and to a lot of folks who need electricity for their homes, their cars, all the things that they use in life today. And with me, helping me answer questions today, is Kenny, who's here from the, works here for the wind company that runs this big wind farm here. It's a very large wind farm, one of the largest in the world, here in Sweetwater, Texas, in Nolan County. And Dana Dinkins, a student of mine from Texas Tech University Law School, took my wind class there and knows a lot about wind, and now she's with our law firm in our Lubbock office and does a lot of wind energy. So, without any further ado, we're going to try to answer a lot of practical questions that a lot of you may have about wind energy, so that you'll be the only kid on your block that knows anything about wind energy, and you'll certainly know more than anybody else. So with that, we have a couple of questions, and Dana's going to help us out with a couple of the questions you might have, and then we're going to pose those to either me or to Kenny or to her and answer those for you.
So, how big are these things? You see them from the road, but you can't tell.
They are 240 feet tall, from the bottom to the top of the nacelle.
So 240 feet all the way up to the hub that you see up there. Then the rotors, how large are they?
The rotor, these are 87 meters. Total circumference, one blade by itself is 47 meters.
So in feet, what would that probably be?
Oh, probably about, say about 150 feet, something like that.
Wow. So you can see how big those are. What about weight?
Yes, how much do they weigh? Because you see that whenever they're driving on the highway to get the blades to the wind farms, that they're only one blade per truck.
The blades are 150 15,000 pounds is what they weigh.
Wow.
The next big question that I have is, a lot of the time you see that the windmills aren't rotating, and why is that, even if it's a windy day?
On a windy day, it could be a number of things. Curtailment, ERCOT, Tenaska could be curtailing the site. So either you're producing enough, but you're not making enough. So the price of the energy is down quite a bit.
And I think so you'll know what Kenny's talking about there is that in order for electricity, when it's produced to be used, it has to be used immediately, because there's not really a process yet to store electricity in a big battery or anything like that. So because it can't be stored unless you have demand, in other words, people are using their appliances, turning on the lights, using their computers and so forth. If it's at night, you might have some of the turbines turned off because of demand, right, Kenny?
Demand's low, yes, sir.
Okay.
So where there's a wind farm out in the middle of the country, where is the electricity going?
It can go. Ours goes to Austin. It goes to numerous places. It either goes to Dallas or San Antonio. They go on the transmission line, so they go from here to the substation, and from the substation to the transmission line.
So this power goes a long way when you figure that Dallas is 220 miles from here. Austin is 250 miles. So that electricity, those electrons that are produced right here from these turbines, goes underground to lines, right?
Yes, sir.
And then goes off to a substation and then onto the big grid?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
And goes all the way down. And so when you're in Austin and you turn on your light switch, you may be using electricity from Sweetwater, which is 250 miles away.
Now, we saw some cows when we came in. What happens with them with these? Do they like it?
Yeah, they do, especially in the summer. They follow the shade. It's kind of like a sundial. In the summer, they follow the turbine, the shade of the turbine, so it's good for the cows. They like it for sure.
One thing we've noticed over the years is that wind turbines are very environmentally friendly. Both the ranchers, farmers, these turbines that you see out here, they're spaced out. Probably, what do you think, 1,000 feet apart or so?
Yes, sir.
So there's plenty of room for animals to move in between. And as Kenny mentioned, in the hot summertime of West Texas, makes a nice shade for the cattle. And you can actually see the cattle follow the shade around as the sun goes across the sky.
And I know that we're worried about birds hitting them. Do you guys get a lot of bird fatalities?
Not in this area, but they do. Up north, where they do migrate a lot, they'll shut a site down for migration. But yeah, here we don't see it as much. You do see sometimes a buzzard or a bat, but not very often.
One thing you may see on TV or have read about is the fact that wind turbines are dangerous to wildlife, particularly birds. And you heard the answer there. Out in West Texas, most of the birds are flying higher than these or lower. And we don't have many bats. There are some parts of the country where they have to be more careful. And the way to do that is to have mitigation procedures. They turn off the turbines at certain times of the year for migration and so forth. So generally, I think we would all say, having studied this, is that, and in the practicality of Kenny having been in an operation out here, there are not nearly as many bird fatalities as one might lead you to believe.
Okay, as much as I love these pretty blue hats and these cute little glasses, why are we wearing them?
We're wearing them for safety. Always want to take safety precautions. You never know when something could fall and hit you in the head. The glasses are for debris flying, dust, whatnot in the turbine.
One of the other concerns that people have, not so much in West Texas, but in other parts of the country where it's a lot colder than it is here in the winter, they have a lot more ice, is ice throw. Have you ever had any experience with ice throw?
Yes, sir, I have. It's dangerous. I've had it dent the hood of a pickup before. So we stay out away from the towers during the ice storms, during the icy season.
And what exactly is ice throw?
Ice throw is when the turbine's spinning and it'll sling off the blade and it'll land on the ground. And if it's a good sheet of ice, it could hurt you. It could hurt pickup and something like that.
So the moral of the story, if you're in you don't want to get too close to a turbine during an ice storm when ice forms on the blades, because when the weather warms up a little bit, it throws the ice off as the blades spin, right, Kenny?
Yes, sir.
And so that can be very dangerous. So that is one concern. Again, not so much West Texas as it is maybe other areas of the country where it's a lot wetter and a lot colder.
My last question is, what kind of jobs are created with creating these huge, wonderful fixtures?
You've got construction jobs that are created, for a short period of time, but it does give you work. And then, of course, on the O&M side, troubleshooting and maintenance is created. They have to be maintained just like your car does. So it creates, depending on the size of the site, depending on how many technicians are hired.
Well, one thing that I might point out there, when these wind farms are constructed, they require a large number of people to build foundations, build roads, erect the turbines. They bring in a big crane, right, Kenny?
Yes, sir.
They bring in a huge crane that lifts up these turbines in segments and puts them up, and then they lift the nacelle and the blades up on the turbine, right?
Yes, sir.
By crane, which is a very careful process. So it's quite an intricate procedure, but once they're set up and going, you don't require a whole lot of daily maintenance, right, Kenny?
Right, and a turbine can be erected in one day. It can be put together
Wow.
in one day.
So believe it or not, these can be put together, the turbine right behind us, one day during construction. So you can imagine how many turbines you can put up in a month. Quite a few. It doesn't take a long time to build a big wind farm. And so one of these turbines, do you have any idea how much electricity, how many homes could be serviced perhaps by one of these?
By one, you could probably service a town like Roscoe. About 1,300 live in that town.
So we're talking about a town of 1,300 people. A turbine or two could probably provide enough electricity for the entire town. So you can imagine that's probably the equivalent of several large Walmarts, A couple of other matters that we might talk about as well. As Dana mentioned, some of the really good things that come from wind energy. It creates jobs, not only for people that work at the wind farms, it also creates new industries, new education, people that go to school to learn how to be wind technicians. Texas Tech University now has a wind energy degree. You actually can go there and get you can get up to a PhD. You can get a master's degree or an undergraduate degree in wind energy. You can go to law school and you can take my wind law course and you can learn how to be a wind lawyer. So that's exactly what Dana did. So there's all kinds of opportunities. Not only that, it increases the good living that people have in these areas because it increases the tax base. One thing you need to be aware of, these are very expensive machines. One of these machines here, like the one behind us, even though it's an older one, probably originally cost, what, $1.5 million, you think?
Yeah, 1.5.
So about $1.5 million. So these are not like windmills you see that produce water. These are very sophisticated machines run by computers, both here at the site and off-site, and can be run here at the project or even from a far distance, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And y'all, some of your, is it run from what other state? They're run from?
We have a control center for Leeward in Dallas that controls the towers, and then the Rock, GE has one called the Rock, and it's in Schenectady, New York.
Wow, so you could be as far away as New York and operate or see the the productivity of the turbines that we're looking at here today. So many good benefits for West Texas areas where for years we've had to rely solely on oil production or cattle ranching or farming. Now we have a new industry that has brought a lot of prosperity to the citizens that live out here in the rural countryside.
I have one last question, and that is, how fast are these blades going?
These blades are spinning. They're spinning right now to roughly 19 RPMs on the low side. On the high side of the generator, 1200 RPMs.
Well, if you think about driving in a car, I've been told they look like the blades, they look like they're going really slow, but out at the tip, they're actually going about 200 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
So they're really going fast. And I can't do the math on that, so that's why you need to take math and you need to take science, okay? If you want to get into this business, you need to know how to do those algebra problems, okay? Geometry and all that kind of good stuff. Now we could take you, if we can take you and show you the inside of a turbine. Again, these are very complex, sophisticated machines that are dangerous at times. You have to be very careful because it involves a lot of electricity, and of course electricity at a high voltage can be very dangerous. So have to be careful. We're going to take a look, and there's a ladder inside. We'll show you how these people out here are able to maintain these turbines by climbing all the way to the top. Can you imagine that? That's a fun climb. I've done it. You don't need to work out after you've climbed to the top of one of these turbines, I can promise you. So we may take a break here for a minute, and then we'll go show you the inside. Welcome back, folks. Here we are inside a wind turbine. Well, actually, there's a door on the side that they opened up for us. You can see on both sides of Dana and me, there are big electrical components. These are the ones you don't want to stick your hand in, okay? Unless you want to become a French fry real quick, okay? So, actually, you can open up, and I'm not going to try to do that, you can open up one of these components here, and actually there's a computer inside there, just like the computer that you use in the classroom or at home, where you can actually operate this turbine. You can turn it off and on, you can regulate the speed, you can actually work on lots of the components of the turbines through that computer, okay? So it is a very high-tech machine. Now, we're standing on the ground floor. Right below us, we came up a little walkway, is the ground, okay? These turbines go about 30 to 50 feet underground. That's how they keep from blowing over. They are anchored in cement that goes way beneath the surface of the ground so that they can withstand high wind speeds up to several hundred miles an hour. That's why during a hurricane or tornado, typically turbines do not fall over. Okay, it's very unusual for a turbine to fall over. You do have some movement if you go up there, just like you would going up in a big building, okay? Now, above our heads right here, there is a ladder which the employees use to access the top of the turbine. And you can actually climb all the way to the top. It's 264 steps to go all the way to the top. And then you actually come out inside the nacelle, which is about, the nacelle is the hub of the turbine, and it is about the size of a school bus, okay? And that is where the rotors are connected. And you can actually then go out on top of the nacelle and stand up there. It's really high and scary when you go up there. So you have to be belted in when you do that, because if you fall off the side, you're going to be dangling off the side until a helicopter comes to get you off, okay? So you want to be really careful, safety all the time. But this is how you get up into the turbines. You can see right here, there is a clamp they use that clamp right there to hoist their equipment up to the top, so they don't have to carry that with them while they're climbing on the ladder. The ladder they climb is very much like a ladder on the side of your house, except that you're belted into the ladder so that if you slip and fall, it's going to catch you and hold you, and you're not going to fall all the way to the bottom, which would be bad, because it is about a 300-foot drop if you fall, okay? So, this is where all the housing is. This is where it happens. The turbine itself, when it spins, produces the electricity, which comes down these wires into these components, into a generator right outside the turbine, and then from there it goes to underground lines, carried off to a power station, and from the power station goes into the actual grid. And we'll have Kenny tell you a little bit about how that happens in just a second. Any questions, Dana, about the inside here?
Can you tell me about the anemometer?
Well, yeah, one interesting cool deal is that on top of the turbine is a weather station, okay? It has what's called an anemometer. That is a little spinning cups on top of the turbine that measures the wind speed, okay? Even though you know it's really windy, you want to know 24/7 how fast the wind's blowing. Also monitors how cold or hot it is, okay? So you can be worried if you're worried about ice throw or any other conditions like that. So it's just a regular weather station on every turbine, and it projects that information out by computer so that you can check on each one of the turbines. Wish we could take you on a climb today, but maybe next time, okay? So from here, we'll take a quick break and let Kenny come in and tell you a few facets about the inside here.
Okay, so as you walk up the turbine, you see the pad mount transformer on the side, the big green box. On the high side, you got 34.5 kV, which is 34,500 volts. On the low side, it steps down to 575 volts. Well, the 575 comes in the bottom of this cabinet of our low voltage distribution panel, and then there's our CB1, and it goes on over to this panel. And then your 575 breaks up into your 120, your 24 volts. It goes to all kinds of little transformers, and also your motors up tower. And in this cabinet here, you got your controls. You got all your stop reset, your stop, your starts, yaw right, yaw left. You can move the nose of the turbine right or left, whichever you need it to move. Inside this cabinet right here, and I'll open it up, you can see inside it, we have all our Bachmans, our communications that goes back to SCADA, back to the office. It has software in there just like your computers, like the cars and all that. So you can control everything from down here. On this side is our converter, our GE converter. So whenever you start producing power and it goes through that gearbox and it starts winding up the generator and it sends the power down, the power comes through this converter and it cleans it up. It makes nice little waves instead of it being like a bunch of squiggly lines. It cleans the power up, then it goes back out into that pad mount transformer and back out to the substations, then of course on the grid. So, and that's basically the main of this turbine. It's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit taller than the others. The base deck's a little bit deeper, more room to move around in with your cables at the bottom. And that's basically about it.
So we really enjoyed being with you today, learning about wind energy. It's gonna be big in the future. You can look forward to wind and solar energy being very important in the world we're going to live in the future.
Kids on the land, kids and nature go hand in hand. Gather your friends, come along with me. Get to know your nature neighbors naturally. There's animals and insects and plants galore. There's fossils and history of what's happened before. This world is a spinning and it's only beginning. Will there always be room for more? Sure. Kids on the land, kids on the land. Learn about this world starting right where you stand. The earth is alive, ain't it just grand? Let's keep it that way